Imagine a kingdom in the clouds, ancient, spiritual, and sealed off from the modern world. A land of chanting monks, towering mountains, and sacred temples. But behind the mystique lay a rigid theocracy, hereditary serfdom, and a deep resistance to change. Until one day, it all vanished beneath the red flag of revolution. Welcome to the Library of Lost Lands, where we delve into the stories of countries that once were, or tried to be, but are no longer with us. Today we turn our gaze to Tibet, a nation that sat atop the world, both geographically and spiritually. Formerly known as the Ganden Phodrang government of Tibet, it functioned as a theocratic state from the 17th century until 1951. Its capital was Lhasa, home of the Potala Palace and the Dalai Lama. Its flag, now banned in the People's Republic of China, features a snow-capped mountain, a blazing sun, and two mythical snow lions, a symbol of purity, courage, and independence. Tibet's estimated population before its dissolution ranged between 1.2 and 2 million people. Tibet's modern political structure began in 1642, when the fifth Dalai Lama united political and spiritual authority under a theocratic government with support from Mongol patrons. Over the centuries, it experienced varying degrees of foreign influence, particularly under the Qing dynasty, but after the Qing collapse in 1912, Tibet expelled Chinese officials and declared itself de facto independent, a status it maintained until 1950. It had its own government, military, currency, and foreign relations, though no major power formally recognized its independence. Tibet inspired wonder as one of the few spiritual nations on earth. It preserved Tibetan Buddhism with elaborate rituals, art, music, and philosophy. Monasteries served as centers of learning and community. Tibetans lived by their own calendar, legal codes, and language. To outsiders, it was a timeless land, one that promised spiritual refuge in a rapidly modernizing world. But Tibet was far from utopian. Beneath its calm surface lay a deeply unequal society. Tibet was a feudal theocracy where over 90% of the population lived as serfs under the control of aristocrats or religious institutions. There were several categories of serfs: misa household, or estate-bound laborers who could be inherited, sold, or transferred; thekpa hereditary peasants bound to taxation and service; dujung tenant farmers with limited independence, still owing allegiance and labor. Punishments for disobedience could include flogging, mutilation, or branding. Women had minimal rights. Social mobility was rare. Education, sanitation, and healthcare were largely absent for the lower classes. The state resisted external influence and technological modernization, clinging to centuries-old customs. In 1950, the People's Republic of China, under Mao Zedong, invaded eastern Tibet, framing it as a liberation from feudal oppression. Tibetan forces were ill-prepared, and by 1951, Tibet was forced to sign the 17-point agreement, incorporating it into China as an autonomous region. Initially, China promised religious freedom and internal autonomy, but over time, these guarantees eroded. In 1959, a failed uprising in Lhasa led to brutal crackdowns. The 14th Dalai Lama fled to India, followed by thousands of Tibetans, and established the Central Tibetan Administration in exile. With the PLA fully in control, Tibet's government, military, and sovereignty were extinguished. Today, Tibet is an autonomous region in name only, under direct control from Beijing. Monasteries are tightly monitored. The Tibetan language is discouraged in favor of Mandarin. Thousands of monks and activists have been imprisoned. Since 2009, more than 150 Tibetans have self-immolated, protesting the loss of cultural and religious freedom. In exile, the Tibetan flag flies freely, especially among diaspora communities in India, Nepal, Europe, and North America. The Central Tibetan administration continues to advocate for human rights and autonomy, though not full independence. Tibet, as a sovereign nation, is gone, but its identity lives on through art, protest, and diaspora memory. Tibet is a land that still lives in exile, a nation with no borders, no army, and no seat at the UN, yet one that endures through its people and their longing for home. It was a realm of deep spiritual wisdom, but also of entrenched inequality. It offered refuge, but denied reform. Outsiders often speak passionately about the loss of Tibetan national freedom, but rarely about the system of hereditary serfdom, religious autocracy, and immobility that defined Old Tibet. Meanwhile, the Chinese government highlights its abolition of serfdom, land reforms, and modernization as a moral justification for incorporation. So we ask you, was Tibet a nation worth preserving as it was, or a society overdue for transformation, however it came? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you learned from this episode of the Library of Lost Lands, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell to explore more forgotten nations and the complex legacies they leave behind.